Every family carries a story it would rather not tell. Some families hide scandals, others bury mistakes. But in the case of the Han family, the story was not hidden at all, it was erased. A child pushed out of sight, treated as an inconvenience, a burden unworthy of their name. The boy's name was Han Ji-hoon, born in Seoul in the summer of 1996. His father, Han Byung-chul, was a wealthy industrialist whose construction company had risen during South Korea's rapid urban expansion. His mother, Lee Sun-young, was polished, social, and relentless about appearances. The Hans were the type of family featured in glossy magazines, successful, refined, untouchable. But Ji-hoon's birth disrupted the perfect portrait. From infancy, he seemed different. He rarely responded to his name. He flapped his hands when overwhelmed. He spoke later than other children and preferred solitude to play. Doctors eventually offered a diagnosis: autism spectrum disorder. For many parents, such a diagnosis demands love, patience, and adaptation. But in a culture obsessed with academic excellence and social conformity, the Hans saw only failure. "He will embarrass us," Byung-chul said flatly, according to a relative. From that moment, Ji-hoon was marked, not as a son, but as a mistake. The family made a calculated decision. While their three older children, Han Junho, Han Min-suk, and Han Soo-jin, were sent to elite schools abroad, Ji-hoon was dispatched to a poor countryside school in Gangwon province. It was far enough that Seoul society would not notice. And so began the first crime in this story, the crime of rejection. The village school was worlds apart from the gleaming private academies his siblings enjoyed. A fading building with cracked windows, rusting radiators, and teachers stretched thin. The textbooks were outdated, the playground little more than dirt. Students wore hand-me-down uniforms, their shoes patched with tape. Into this setting came Ji-hoon, a boy who barely spoke, who flinched at loud noises, who seemed lost in his own world. His classmates mocked him. They mimicked his rocking motions. They called him weirdo and broken. Teachers, overburdened, offered little defense. But what no one noticed was what Ji-hoon did with his silence. When others saw junk, he saw patterns. When others discarded broken electronics, he took them apart carefully, memorizing every circuit. In the hum of a faulty fan, he heard rhythm. In the gears of an old rice mill, he saw possibility. Meanwhile, life abroad painted a sharp contrast. Junho, the eldest, studied at a prestigious boarding school in London. Min-suk was sent to a top prep academy in New York. Soo-jin, the only daughter, attended a private Swiss institution for gifted girls. Their photos filled the family's home in Seoul, framed in silver. Their names were boasted about at chaebol business dinners and golf clubs. Ji-hoon's name was rarely spoken. When it came with sighs. "He is in the countryside," his mother would murmur, her voice clipped. Few dared to ask further. A former family acquaintance later recalled, "They acted as if they had only 3 children. The fourth, it was like he did not exist." But erasure does not destroy. Sometimes, it transforms. In Gangwon, Ji-hoon began haunting the small village library. Its collection was thin, but tucked away in the back were discarded manuals, outdated magazines, and engineering textbooks no one else touched. The librarian, noticing his fascination, quietly allowed him to borrow them. Another unlikely mentor appeared in the form of a local repairman, Mr. Park, who fixed radios, clocks, and farm machinery. Ji-hoon would sit silently for hours, watching, memorizing. Occasionally, he would ask a short but piercing question. "Why does this wheel turn slower than that one? What happens if the wire connects here instead?" Park remembered later, it was as if the machines spoke to him. He didn't just copy, he understood. By 12, Ji-hoon had assembled a crude robotic arm from scrap metal and scavenged wires. It barely functioned, but the principle was there. By the time Han Ji-hoon turned 16, the village children who once mocked him now watched with a mix of awe and unease. He was the boy who could bring dead machines back to life. He salvaged broken rice cookers, dismantled them, and rebuilt them as miniature moving arms. He collected discarded smartphone batteries, wiring them together to create crude power banks for neighbors whose homes experienced frequent blackouts. None of this was learned in school. His teachers remained frustrated with him. He still struggled to answer questions in class, still stared out the window, still scribbled strange diagrams in the margins of his notebooks. But those diagrams were blueprints, precursors to creations that would one day change the world. The village whispered. Seoul ignored him. His family erased him. Yet Ji-hoon was quietly becoming something extraordinary. At 17, Ji-hoon entered a small regional science competition, encouraged not by his family, but by the village librarian who had become his quiet advocate. The project was simple by global standards, a robotic arm built entirely from scrap metal, wires, and recycled motors. The judges scoffed at the presentation until the arm lifted a cup of water with precise grip control, guided by a sensor system Ji-hoon had rigged from an old television remote. Silence fell. Then applause. Newspapers in Gangwon ran the headline, "Village teen builds robotic arm from junk." In Seoul, the story barely registered. His parents never attended the event, never read the articles. They were too busy boasting about their older children studying abroad. But for Ji-hoon, the spark had been lit. He had tasted recognition, not from family, but from strangers who finally saw what he could do. Meanwhile, the Han siblings were unraveling. Han Junho, the eldest, squandered his opportunities in London. He failed his university entrance exams twice, preferring late-night clubs over classrooms. By 2022, Han Ji-hoon had become a household name, not just in Korea, but across the globe. His robotics company, Neuromech Systems, developed machines that assisted in elderly care, automated disaster recovery, and even performed delicate surgeries under supervision. Governments sought his expertise. Universities begged him to lecture. The boy who once scavenged scrap metal in a village shed was now worth billions of won. But with fame comes scrutiny. And soon, journalists began to ask questions, not about his inventions, but about his past. Why had this genius grown up in a poor countryside school? Why was his family absent from every award ceremony? Why did he never mention the Han name? The investigation revealed what his parents had tried to bury. Ji-hoon had been abandoned by the very family that now sat disgraced, their golden children exposed as failures. It was a story too powerful for the media to resist. Headlines splashed across the country. Forgotten son outshines family dynasty. Han heirs in scandal. Disowned brother becomes global pioneer. And suddenly, the family who once erased him wanted him back. Han Byung-chul, once untouchable in Seoul's business circles, now faced humiliation. His eldest son, Junho, had been deported after another assault case in London. His second son, Min-suk, was bankrupt, his fraud charges too numerous to hide. His daughter, Soo-jin, lived in a psychiatric clinic, fragile and withdrawn. Their father's empire, once a symbol of power, teetered under debt and reputation collapse. It was then, in a move dripping with irony, that Byung-chul reached out to the son he had discarded. He appeared at a press event, announcing tearfully, "I am proud of my youngest son, Ji-hoon. He has always been the light of this family." The words rang hollow. Koreans saw through the performance. Public opinion turned harsher. Now you claim him? After you abandoned him? The moment came when Ji-hoon was invited to deliver a keynote speech at the Blue House, attended by political leaders, global scientists, and the press. His parents sat in the audience, front row, for the first time in decades. Cameras captured every angle. As Ji-hoon walked on stage, tall and composed in a black suit, the tension was electric. Would he acknowledge them? Would he embrace the family name they had once denied him? He began quietly, his voice calm but resolute. "When I was a boy, I was told I would never succeed. I was told I was broken. I was sent away, hidden, traced. But in the silence of that rejection, I found machines that did not judge me. Circuits that did not laugh. Robots that listened when no one else would. Today, I stand here not because of privilege, not because of wealth, but in spite of it." The room was silent. Cameras flashed. His parents shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Then came the words that cut deepest. "To those who abandoned me, I forgive you, But I do not owe you. My name is not the Han family's success story. My name is my own." The applause thundered, drowning out everything else. In that moment, Ji-hoon severed the last chain tying him to the family that had discarded him. Investigators looking at the Han case now call it a study in irony. The three children who had been given every advantage, wealth, international education, elite connections, collapsed under the weight of expectation. The one child denied everything rose to unimaginable heights. Psychologists interviewed for documentaries pointed to the corrosive nature of perfectionism in elite Korean families. One noted, the Han parents could not tolerate imperfection. In discarding Ji-hoon, they unknowingly freed him from their crushing expectations. Their other children suffocated under the pressure. That is the tragedy. Sociologists added, this story reveals the darker side of Korea's obsession with education and status. The true crime here is the crime of neglect, the belief that a child who doesn't fit the mold is disposable. The downfall of the Han siblings was swift. Junho lives in obscurity, estranged and bitter, surviving off what little remains of family money. Min-suk drifts between odd jobs, his name still blacklisted in business circles. Soo-jin, fragile but alive, remains in long-term psychiatric care, visited occasionally by her mother. Their father, Han Byung-chul, died of a stroke in 2024. His funeral was sparsely attended. The only notable absence was Ji-hoon, who declined to appear. His mother, Sun Young, now lives quietly, far from the social circles that once adored her. The family dynasty that once prided itself on prestige had collapsed into ruin. And Ji-hoon? Today, he continues to push boundaries in robotics. His company develops machines for space exploration and humanitarian aid. He mentors autistic children, funding programs to ensure no child is silenced as he once was. At conferences, he is often asked about forgiveness. His answer is always the same. Forgiveness is not about excusing the past. It is about refusing to let it define you. I forgave my family, but I never forgot what they did. When we peel back the layers of this story, it is not just about a genius who overcame odds. It is about the silent crimes families commit, the crimes of neglect, of shame, of erasure. The Han family believed wealth could secure greatness. They sent their favored children to the best schools in the world, only to watch them falter. The son they cast away, dismissed as broken, became the one name history remembers. This is the paradox, the reckoning, the crime and its consequence. Han Ji-hoon, the forgotten son, will be remembered not for the family that erased him, but for the world he helped build.